Hello and welcome to What's New from BBC Africa. I'm Nora Fakeem. Coming up on today's special programme, looking ahead to next week's huge conference on climate change. Planting seeds for the future ahead of COP26. What pledges have been at previous climate summits and what have we achieved so far? We take a look.
In the previous years, accessing COP for young people was so hard. But this year, we will be going with a delegation of 20 young persons to the COP.
We meet the young people playing their part in helping to heal the world through climate change activism.
You are never too young to help nature. I would encourage children to plant trees, do not litter, recycle, reuse, and only buy things you need.
Mali is one of the world's poorest countries, and now water is becoming a dwindling precious resource due to climate change. Welcome to the show. Leaders from hundreds of countries are meeting the UK to discuss how to save the planet from catastrophic climate change. The conference in Glasgow is called COP26, and delegates from all over the world will be asked how they plan to cut harmful emissions by 2030 so that global temperatures stop rising so fast. The challenge is urgent. The effects of climate change can be seen everywhere, from melting ice caps in the Arctic to frequent droughts in parts of Africa. And young people, including many from Africa, are among the loudest calling for action. One young delegate who's attending COP26 is Nesrine El Saim. She's chair of the UN Secretary-General's Youth Advisory Group on Climate, and she told us what she hopes to achieve.
In the previous years, accessing COP for young people was so hard. But this year, we will be going with a delegation of 20 young persons to the COP. And this is a great jump because I remember years that I was the only young person, and then one joined and then another joined. But now we are 20 in the delegation who are below the age of 35. And this is a major achievement for young people within the diplomacy part.
Back in the early 90s, when climate negotiations started, about 35 billion tons of greenhouse gases were being emitted into the atmosphere every year. Since then, despite all the talking, those emissions have just kept climbing.
We spend a lot of time talking about what's needed, how can we do mitigation, how can we do adaptation, and what's the limit and what's the science saying, and so on. So now everyone knows everything, especially in the climate change field, but the actions are still very much behind, and also if any progress is happening, it's too slow to the process.
They could fall to about 46 billion tons a year by 2030, but they need to come down far more than that to avoid the worst effects of climate change.
Unfortunately, 1.5 is going to be devastating also for Africa, so we are just reducing the damage that already happened and already happening.
Unless we commit to doing much more, our planet and indeed our existence are severely threatened.
Climate change is an existential crisis for the entire world, yet poor countries are particularly vulnerable.
There's thus an urgent need to reverse the trend and restore our forest resources as much as possible back to their original state.
Only developing countries plus UK are actually submitting enough indices to be able to stay within the 1.5 Celsius. All of the other countries around the world are not really doing enough pledges.
One crucial thing they need to sort out at COP26 is rules for measuring carbon. This is going to be one of the thorny issues they'll be talking about in Glasgow. Previous meetings haven't managed it. Measuring carbon matters because as countries cut their emissions, there needs to be a way of accounting for that.
It's simple measures. You measure how much they emit and how much they need to cut in order to reach or stay within the 1.5, and we are not there yet.
Thank you for that, Nazarene. So while world leaders have their work cut out for them, children around the world are also getting stuck in to do their bit for the environment. We are in Kenya, South Africa and Ghana to speak to 3 activists about what they do to help save the planet.
I am Ramina. I'm 15 years old. I'm a young environmentalist, a passionate wildlife conservationist, a climate change activist. I actually run 2 campaigns. The first one is Saturdays for Environment, where we actually use our free time, which is on Saturday, on the weekend, in order to sensitize the communities and also run these cleanups and make that perspective of making our environment more clean. Apart from that, moreover, I have another campaign by the name Let Lake Victoria Breathe and Let Lake Victoria Breathe Again, which is basically advocating for the restoration of our ecosystem of the Lake Victoria. The Lake Victoria is the 2nd largest freshwater lake in the whole wide world, and many people depend on it, be it doing economic activities, be it culture-wise. But as years pass on, the Lake Victoria is being poisoned by the waste, and that's why we're trying to come up with solutions like using the water hyacinth, which is an aquatic weed in the Lake Victoria, in order to make alternative sources of energy and also products from it. When actually climate change affects my country, we used to tell time with the weather. But right now, it's just rainfall, prolonged rainfall. This is the water hyacinth root that has been soaked for 2 weeks. We used to make papers, and it depends on the sun, heat, and also the light that it intensifies to the papers. But right now, since it's rainy, we do not actually make the eco-friendly papers, since the weather dictates our production. So this card is made from the water hyacinth paper, the mixture of water hyacinth and the waste paper. It is fully biodegradable once you remove the metals. Now, water hyacinth is also a menace in the Lake Victoria, and by using it together with the waste paper to make papers or even cards and bookmarks, this will make a global impact to the environment and the society. For young people, I'd love to give out an advice. If one person like me can make a change, what if we all unite together to have a global movement and also try to strategize our capability of changing the mindset of people and attitudes toward conservation aspects.
Hello, my name is Romaria. I reside in Durban, South Africa. I'm 10 years old, an ethnophile and an environmentalist. Climate change is definitely affecting my countries. The summers are getting hotter. In the Cape, there has been raging wildfires which affects biodiversity and threatens food security. In Durban, there has been floods and violent winds. I am an Ocean Soul ambassador and have cleaned the beach over 150 times. I've always cared for nature and our planet. However, when I was 6 years old, I was an orca in a school play. I did research with my mother and discovered that orcas were endangered. I decided to do something about it by cleaning the beach weekly. I loved being creative and began making eco-art instead of throwing the trash away to help protect the environment. These are one of the things that I've picked up on the beach, noodles. And noodles are tiny plastic pellets which make plastic bottles, and they're very bad for the environment. You are never too young to help nature. I would encourage children to plant trees, do not litter, recycle, reuse, and only buy things you need. At the moment, I am planting trees called Werbergia salutaris in different locations in Durban. They were donated to me and they are endangered. I am trying to prevent them from extinction. This is my African grey parrot and it's endangered in its natural habitat.
My name is Mary and I am a climate change activist. So I got involved in climate change activities when I was introduced to a club in my school known as the Eco School Club. The club seeks to educate people about climate change, do things that will reverse the effects of climate change in our country. We had a climate change protest demonstration. So we went through the principal streets of Accra. We demonstrated, we educated people about the effects of climate change and what we can do to reverse them. And we also gave them tree seedlings to plant. So climate change affects my life and the country negatively because the change in climate, so when you expect the rain to fall, rain doesn't fall, you see sunshine all throughout. Recently in June and July, people expected rainfall, farmers expected rainfall, but there was no rainfall. There was sunshine throughout. And during those times too, people were finding it hard to get food to eat. But now that we are not expecting the rainfall, we are expecting a cool weather, we are expecting the Harmattan, the rain is falling. And farmers are surprised about this. This is due to we cutting down trees, we polluting our environment, we burning rubbish. This is affecting us a lot. I would tell young people watching me that they should respect and protect green places. They should stop burning rubbish. Maybe when you want to use short distances, they should walk to reduce the emission of the carbon dioxide into the air. I will also tell them that they should educate their peers, they should educate their friends on climate change, the effects, and how to reverse them. I would say that climate change is affecting us negatively. We should stop cutting down trees. We should stop burning rubbish. We should respect and protect green places.
I would love to give out an image and reflect on the ideas that local voices are trying to bring out there. That is dealing with environmental conservation, wildlife preservation, and also the global issues such as climate destruction and global warming.
When COP26 comes up, I would love to see an International Children's Tree Planting Day, where world leaders and tree organizations team up with schools and communities to plant trees together. Children involved in reforestation programs from a young age will help them become better citizens for the environment and slow down global warming.
Welcome to Morocco, home to more than 36 million people and 3.5 million cows. But this is a climate change special, so what do cows have to do with global warming? Well, it's thought that agriculture, especially meat farming, is responsible for 1/4 of the world's methane emissions. But what is methane and why is it bad news for global warming and climate change targets? I've been finding out. Methane gas. You may have heard about it and even produced some yourself, but what is it exactly? Well, methane is a greenhouse gas and is produced by all animals, including humans, and the bacterial decomposition of plant matter. One of the biggest contributors of methane is produced by cattle farmed for food production. We all know greenhouse gases are a bad thing because it traps hot air in the atmosphere and increases the Earth's temperature. But methane is also used for slightly more useful things, such as generating electricity, and it can also be used for cooking and heating. Now, unlike carbon dioxide, methane doesn't hang around in the air for as long, which means when it comes to global warming, it doesn't have as lasting harmful effect for the environment. This is actually a good thing, because according to the Climate and Clean Air Coalition, if the amount of methane produced was reduced by half over the next 30 years, it could reduce the average global temperature by 0.18 degrees Celsius. Okay, this may not sound like a lot, but it's actually a reduction in temperature of around 20 and 45% of the target global temperature reduction agreed at the Paris Climate Change Conference in 2015, which was signed by most of the world's countries. So how can we reduce the amount of methane produced globally by half? Well, according to some studies, if farmers introduce more vegetable oils into the diets of cows, it could cut methane emissions by 11 to 18% alone. And next year, an American-New Zealand space program is set to launch a satellite called MethaneSat into space. This satellite will scan the Earth's surface every few days and will help to study methane emissions around the globe. Hopefully, this project will help scientists understand the emissions better in their fight against climate change, and we hope that it doesn't turn out to be just a load of hot air. Mali in West Africa is one of the poorest countries in the world. It's also considered one of the most vulnerable to climate change. The International Committee of the Red Cross is warning that the climate crisis is making an already dire situation there much worse. The country now consists mainly of desert or semi-desert, and water is becoming a dwindling precious resource. Christine has the story.
Walking where fish once swam. This desert is what remains of Lake Fagbibin. Sand dunes have replaced the vast expanse of water. The heat approaches 50 degrees Celsius. The rich arable farmland lies barren.
When there was still water on our land, we grew rice and wheat, and we supplied Gundam, Duchrai and Timbuktu with grain. Nowadays, the little water that reaches the pond is only just enough to grow what we need to survive.
Exacerbating the march of the desert is the felling of the meager number of trees left here. Residents like Al Husna feel trapped by a cycle they cannot break. A widow and a mother of 3, her children left the village in search of a better life. Her only source of income is selling firewood.
I know it's destroying the environment, but if I don't do it, how am I going to buy food? My children are grown up. They've done what all the young people are doing. They've left home and never get in touch. I've stayed here.
With very little water left in parts of the lake, herders are losing their livestock as they travel farther in search of water and food. And with land for grazing becoming scarce, regular disputes erupt between farmers and livestock herders.
Not a day goes by without conflict between livestock herders and farmers. There's not much space, and everyone wants a bit of what there is, so there's tension. After we've harvested our produce, we have to transport it, and that's dangerous. Even the women you see behind me are at risk. Their maize may be stolen on the way.
With this valuable asset dwindling and communities at war with each other, experts in the region are asking for immediate action from world leaders.
Climate change hits the poorest and the most vulnerable in the world. We see that concretely with people affected by war, violence, and many other situations that are impacting their daily lives. Farmers and other communities are unfortunately unable to cope with climate change. At COP26, we call on world leaders to take concrete actions, concrete engagements to bring climate action closest to those suffering in silence, where unfortunately, and until today, the action has been underwhelming, to say the least.
Almost 5,000 people live in this harsh environment. Many of the children here will not have seen the lake as their parents did, full of water. And as a new generation is born, the hope here is that the world can take urgent action to tackle the climate crisis so they have a future they can depend on.
Well, drought is just one aspect of the effects of climate change. One thing having a devastating effect on nature is plastic pollution. Unfortunately, not everyone is doing their part to recycle it. But Elijah Ofori-Bamfo, a fashion designer in Ghana, thinks he's come up with a solution that might just help. He makes clothes from the waste he finds on the streets, which he says are in high demand.
We are planning to do a fashion show on the court and invite the community there to see the unique products and stuff that we have done with the rubbers. My name is Elijah Ofori-Bamfo. I'm a fashion designer. I see a whole lot of waste, like I see a whole lot of plastics, I mean, all over. That is the same like plastics that end up in the sea and all over the environment and stuff. So I had this idea that what if I can turn these plastics into the clothes that people know us for? People love our products, like they see it and I think it comes with some shock, like how were you able to turn the rubbers into jackets? It's been difficult, especially since they are not like the regular material, so cutting them is a problem sometimes when you have to glue them, and like stitching is a bit difficult, but we try to still make it, and I think that is what makes our work unique. Our goal is to create unique pieces of like items, clothing, bags and stuff with it, put so much value in it to the point where people cannot afford to dump it.
That's all from us for now, but don't forget that in the meantime, you can find more from the What's New team on our YouTube page. Just go to youtube.com/BBC What's New. Make sure you hit the subscribe button to keep up to date with all our latest interviews and stories, and comment on your favourite ones. See you next time. Goodbye.